Hello, sports fans, and welcome to Dylan Knows, where we're going to be talking football all the time. No, not really. Yes, it
I
is.
guess if they're dressed up enough and they have superpowers, we can talk about them too. So,
Well, the funny thing is, actually, there is that thing that kind of pissed me off is they're doing I don't know if it's an online comic or like a little comic strip or something like that where they have like the super quarterbacks. It's like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and some of the other ones out there. And I was like, really?
yeah, yeah. I think it's a show that it's like a Saturday morning cartoon that was on like Nickelodeon or one of those for a while. So
Jeez.
they're desperate. They're scraping.
But yeah, this is Dylan Knows. It's the first week of September, so it's official, not officially, but it's meteorological fall. So yay, fall! It is now fall
Yes.
season. Best
Finally.
season out there. Yes, I know. And of course, Baltimore decides that this is after a nice kind of cool, chill summer. This was the week that they were going to make it hot as blazes. So we had just like summer weather. I was like, really? It just turned meteorological fall, and you're giving us summer still. I mean, yeah, technically it's still summer, I know, but come on.
But it doesn't have to be like the hottest weekend of summer so far, though.
Exactly, I know. It was awful, terrible. But yeah, this is Dylan Knows. First week of the month is our comic show. My usual co-host is Mr. MJ Khan.
Hello, hello.
And we're going to be here talking comic books today because we like comic books, and comic books are cool.
Yes.
And as proof, we're going to discuss my trip to the Baltimore Comic Con yesterday. It's still going on now, so if you're in the area or if you need something to do and you're nearby Baltimore, head on down there. It's on till 6 o'clock, I think, tonight, so head on down there. It's a great show, and this year, it's been a couple years since I've been, and I went with my family this year, and they moved it to the big part of the convention center, and it was just filled with people, filled with cosplayers, filled with talent. I mean, filled with the writers and artists, and just it was just insane how big it was. And I'm flashing back 2 or 3 years ago when they were in the smaller part, and it didn't seem like it was that crowded. And this is just insane. So cheers to that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're also going to be talking about the New 52. It is September. 3 years ago, they started the New 52. DC did, changed up everything to try to make some dough, and I guess it worked. But I figured it's time to take a little bit of a look at it. I mean, we may not take a big look at it because, once again, I don't want to make the whole show about that. That can be some other time down the road when I've done research. I really haven't done any research yet. I'm going to go off with what I don't like right now. And then got our usual news and some cool stuff coming up in the fall that I want to send out to you guys for you to check out. And then after that, it'll be football time.
Yes.
So excellent. So go whatever team you cheer for, unless you're playing the Ravens, and then
Keep that to yourself, right?
So I also have yes, Tony. That's right. Tony Solo. The grandfather of the Snark Alex. We have a Snark Alex Fantasy Football League, so it's like Snark Alex Fantasy Football, suck it, dickweed. So, yep, that's right. Yeah, it's cutthroat. Snark Alex Fantasy Football is cutthroat, and it's a lot of fun too. I'll real quick. I just have to give props to Janica's husband Scott, who won last year's Snark Alex, and Janica came in second. So hopefully he's not going to win this year. Hopefully a certain someone who has his own show every Sunday at 12:30 p.m. is going to win. And hopefully we'll also take down the other person who's got a show on Thursdays at 9 o'clock, Mr. Tony Solo, and Kelly Toole for that matter too. He's in the league too. So
You show them that Dylan knows fantasies. Well, football.
Excuse me. I need a beer after that. Anyway, but the Q&A is up. That's how Tony came in like that. So if you're watching the show and you want to talk about, maybe not fantasy football because this is actually a comic show, but that's cool.
Right.
That's cool. Any questions about comics, whatever, it's cool. Any comments, questions you have for us, it's great. But let's jump right into it.
Yeah, tell us about your Baltimore Con.
Baltimore Con?
Yeah.
It's great. Baltimore Con, for those who might not know, this is their, I think he said it was his 15th year of doing it. So it's been around for a while. And I got to give you a little background. It's kind of funny. It had a lot of trouble starting up because the weekend they picked is always usually the first or second weekend of September.
Uh-huh.
And in 2001, they picked, I think it was the weekend after 9/11. So there was nobody on planes, nobody coming down. I think they didn't do very well that year, but that was
Yeah.
just obviously we had just gone through a major national
Understandable. Right.
crisis, and understandable. But he still, he understood, and he kept it going. And then the year after that, in 2002, I'm always going to remember this because that was was 2002. No, it was 2003. I'm sorry. 2 years later, in 2003, it was the month before. It was the month before Dawn and I got married. So we were still engaged, and we decided together that we were going to do our bachelor and bachelorette parties on the same
Okay.
night, a month before the wedding, so that it wasn't a couple days before the wedding. We weren't all hungover for our wedding, stuff like that. So we decided to do it a month before. So we chose that weekend in September when the Baltimore Con was going on. Just so happened that Friday, a hurricane came through and flooded the inner harbor. There were
Which I'm
pictures.
assuming the convention center is like right off the Inner Harbor. That's where
It is,
everything seems to be. So.
yeah, it is. It's right. It's right there. I mean, that's what makes it so great. Is the Baltimore Convention Center is between Camden Yards and M&T Bank Stadium, where the
Hmm.
Ravens and Orioles play, and Harbor Place. So it's on Pratt Street, which is the big main street that goes through there. So it's about a block away from the harbor. So it had flooded Pratt Street, and there were pictures from helicopters that Friday of just the road completely covered in water. And it's seceded back to eventually because it was just a real quick gust and then it came back, but it was just insane. It was just absolutely. Actually, it might have been that Saturday when it flooded actually. So he had a little trouble with that too. But despite all that problems, Mark Nathan is the guy who created it. He's the guy who owns Cards, Comics, and Collectibles up here in Reisterstown,
Uh-huh.
and it's my local comic store, so I know him pretty good. He and Chuck, his worker, they're celebrating their 30th year of business, so congrats to them. It's a nice store. It's really nice. Good people. They're fun, and they know me because I spend a ton of money in there. But what was really cool though is that when I went there yesterday, and Dawn and my kids Noah and Noel came with us. So it was their first convention, and it was Dawn's first comic convention. We went to
Uh-huh.
a paranormal convention last year at this time, but this is her first comic convention. Um, we get our tickets, and we're heading downstairs to get to the con when I see Mark Nathan, the guy who runs the con and who's the guy up here at my store. And he sees me, and he smiles and says, I see you're just getting here. And I was like, yes, I am. And he gave me a little pat on the shoulder. So I felt good that the guy in the middle of the convention center, he sees me, recognizes me and my family because I have brought them into the store many times, so he knows who we are. The fact that he was talking to a group of people, he saw me, and he saw me and said, hey, how's it going? It's good to see you. Glad you finally made it, and gave me a little pat on the shoulder. I thought that was one of the coolest things ever
Wow.
to do that. So that's why Cards, Comics, and Collectibles is one of the best comic stores in the country.
Personalize the experience.
Exactly. And then when I bought my comics, because I hadn't bought comics in about 2 weeks because we're in a little bit of financial flux right now, in a good way, but we still have some issues. So I hadn't bought comics in about 2 weeks. I went and I patronized Cards, Comics, and Collectibles. They have their own table in the con, and there's Chuck, and he rang me up and told me that it was his first time. I was like, he was looking ragged and tired. I was like, man, you look tired. I was like, yeah, this is my first time we're slowed down a little bit. I'm looking around. I was like, this is slowed down. It's still insane. So it's hard to believe it. But that was cool, and also the fact that I used to work at Diamond Comics, which was the only distributor of comics in the country, and a lot of the people I worked with and knew are still with Diamond or still are connected to the con in some way. So another couple cool things that happened was once again as soon as we walked in, this year we went upstairs to the main ticket booth area since they were in the bigger section and there's more space. And I'm walking up there and we're turning to head that way when I hear somebody go, Dylan! And I turn around and it's a guy I used to work with. His name was Brian Krasuski. And he's like, it's Brian, how's it going? I was like, yeah, I knew who it was right away. I was like, Brian, man, how's it going? I shook my hand and introduced him to my wife and kids, and we chatted for a little bit. He was there being one of the line leader guys, like saying, if you have any questions, go here, or, this is where you need to line up, stuff like that. So that was cool to see him. And then while we're in line to get tickets, there's like 5 or 6 lanes for tickets, so there's, they're all full of people. I look over, and there's somebody looking at his cell phone, and it was another friend of mine from the Diamond Days, Adam. And so I was waiting for him to get off his phone, and he looks up, I go, Adam! And he turns over, looks at me, I was like, oh, hey man, what's up? So it was cool to see him, and then I went into the con. I saw I didn't talk to him, but I just saw him walk by with his son. But Steve Jeppy, who owns Diamond Comics, he was there with his son. I've met him a few times and seen him, but he didn't see me. He was busy doing his thing.
Yeah.
And then I saw at the Diamond booth were my old boss Eric Beck, and I can't remember the computer lady's name who used to do the computer stuff for us. Cynthia, Charlotte. I don't know. I forget. It's horrible. It's been like 7 years. No, it's been 8 years since I've worked there. So I don't remember.
Going by facial recognition only there. So
exactly. And then when I was a brand manager, my boss Jim Kohoric. He's now a bigwig over at Avatar Comics, and he also writes the $6 Million Man comic for Dynamite Comics. And I saw him, and I talked to him for a few minutes. I was on my way out. I just said hi to him, and he recognized me. And then I wanted to see my buddy Philip, who is a bigwig at Boom Studios. But when I was, looking around the con, he was up doing one of his, it was doing one of his discussions up in one of the other ballrooms, whatever. So I missed out on seeing him, but that was cool. And then just walking around and just seeing everybody. So first few things I got to tell you was it's bigger than it has been. As I said, it's been a couple years since I've been, and it was a much smaller convention when I went a couple years ago. But now they're in the bigger ballroom, and it was packed to the gills. I mean, it was just absolutely packed, and that's a good thing. I mean, it's a really, really good thing. Tons of cosplayers. I mean, my God, it seemed like everybody was wearing costumes, and a lot of them were really good. There were some really, really good ones, and then there were some really, really bad ones. But you know what? Who cares?
You're still having fun. You're out there representing.
It was so cool. There was one kid, probably had to be about, I don't know, maybe 10, 11 years old, and he had made his own Robin costume. And the way he did it was he took a T-shirt and shorts and he colored it in the Robin colors. So that was really kind of neat.
That's really cool, though. I mean,
I mean, you have the professional ones, and they look good, but sometimes you see little kids just
inspiration.
Exactly, just they're doing their own thing, and it was really a really neat costume. The only problem, one of the things I was upset about was because I was with the kids and it was so overwhelming. I mean, I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they've never been to a con like this, and it's so crazy, so busy that they were just overwhelmed by it. So they were kind of not really knowing what's going on, lots of people going around, and just a lot of information coming at them, and just a lot of stuff happening. And it wasn't a great experience this time, I think, because Noah, my son, was getting a little grumpy, and I think Noel was getting a little bit bored because, to be honest, a convention, it's kind of boring. I mean, you're there for, you want to buy stuff, and it's cool to see the people in costumes, and especially Baltimore Con, they have a lot of creative people, the writers, artists, editors, like that. A lot of the big wigs are there, and they've got a whole other section called Artist Alley, which are all upcomers, people who do their own books, self-publish, do indie stuff, and trying to get noticed, and that was one of the things I remembered, because my daughter asked me yesterday, how many times have you gone to the Baltimore Con? So in its 15 years, I think this one was my 6th time. Now, 2 times I was working. One when I was a brand manager. We all went down, and our job as brand managers is to try to find new talent and get them into the previews catalog, and try to sell their books and see
Right.
if it'll sell, and try to keep increasing comics so that more people can get their work out there, stuff like that. That's what our main job is.
Okay.
So our job at the con is to go down to Artist Alley and just talk to these guys. So we would walk around in our Diamond comics polos and stuff like that, and just say, hey,
Right.
how's it going, brand manager for Diamond? Tell me about your book, or just talk to them about it and see what they can do. Take a look at their stuff and take samples, because plenty of them have samples they give away for free. Others you can buy their books as well if you want. So we would take a look at some stuff, and then what we would do is on Monday we would reconnoiter and have a meeting and look through all the stuff that we did over the weekend. Said, okay, who do you think would be a good person to get into Diamond? Would any people? So that's one of the cool things about being a brand manager. You got to read all these comics. I mean, that's the job. You sit there and you read the comics, you look at the artwork, you listen, you try to figure out the story. So that's kind of cool. So I did that, and then the other time, this is when I was a customer service rep at Diamond. Diamond sometimes had these retailer summits, which were the week after the con. So you had the Saturday and Sunday were the con, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was this retailer summit. So this retailers would come to this summit, and Diamond would have personnel there trying to say, this is how to make your store better, this is how you can use our new computer system, this is how we can help you to open a second store, stuff like that, information, stuff like that. So one of my accounts was a big store out in California. Well, not really, no, he wasn't in California, was he? Yeah, it was. It's weird. He owned a giant store in California, and he lived in Chicago. So he would fly out. I guess he would spend a couple weeks out there and then come back to his home. I'm not exactly sure how it worked out, but he was one of my bigger accounts. So he was talking one day. I said, "Look, I want to come to this retailer summit, but I can't afford to bring any of my guys to help me out at the con, because he thought it'd be kind of cool to do something at the con." And I said, hey, you know what? I'll help you if you want to. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. So I said, okay. So I became his helper at the con. So he brought all the stuff, flew all the stuff in, and I worked his booth both days, Saturday and Sunday. And he paid me in cash under the table, and also let me take a couple books that I wanted, they're trying to get rid of. So that was fun. So yeah, there were some good perks. So I've seen it from both sides. I've been there as a fan. And I've been there as a guy working, so it's.
Which one do you prefer?
Fan, definitely.
I was gonna say, because that looks like a lot of work. The one that I've been to, those people were sweating. So I'm like,
If you don't have enough help, it's like with us, it was just the two of us. So we need to eat, and we need to eat. We need to go to the bathroom. We need to have able to go around and maybe take a look take a look at around the con and see stuff, because that's one thing you do at the con. You mingle with all the other people you work with, or who have other stores. So there were times that I was working by myself at the booth, or he was working by himself. So yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And you have to be, and then on the other side of it, to be a brand manager, you've got to be kind of more of a social, outgoing type of person to be able to go up to people and start talking to them. Here's where there's a little bit of a dilemma in myself. I'm a Gemini Cancer, and Geminis are very outgoing. Cancers are very introverted, and I'm both. Obviously, I'm okay doing the show, but if you get me to the con, I was having a hard time, going up to people and talking to them. I still, to this day, every time I've gone down to the con, I don't think I've ever actually gone to one of the writers and artists that I truly like a Peter Tomasi or a Gail Simone, and just talk to them, like say, hey, can I get a picture? What's new with your stuff? I would just sort of walk by them and say, oh, cool, there they are. I'm just walk by, bye, and then I would talk to people that I knew. I mean, Philip and Jim Cahork and stuff like that. I would just talk to them. So, and that's also maybe why I also went to Cars, Comics, and Collectibles. Well, I want to support them, but I mean, I knew the guys who worked there, so I could go there and chat with them there instead of just going up to another vendor and just buy some stuff there. So it's interesting, and it was still good. I mean, eventually once I got into it, it got to be a little bit easier. But sometimes it was just it was frightening for me a little bit, I guess is the term, talking to these new guys. But
yeah.
But,
I don't see you as being shy. So
well, that's cool. it was a good show.
Hmm.
I said lots of people, lots of vendors.
Right.
They had a kids comic sections. They had a section roped off where they
Uh-huh.
had events for kids all the time, like make
Well,
your
that's
own
good.
comic book or
Hmm.
lightsaber training and stuff like that. So that was kind of neat.
Uh-huh.
And the bigger convention section has more concessions. Granted, they're an arm and a leg, but
Right.
if you didn't have to wait in long lines because there was like 2 or 3 different places in the
You
concessions
can go
area.
to. Okay.
And it's a good show because it's always on the top 5 list of creators who are always asked what are your favorite cons to go to. A lot of them put Baltimore up there. I
That's
mean,
cool.
and the main thing is because it's pure comics. I
Uh-huh.
mean, they throw some pop culture like this year. Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca, he was there. But that was
For
that
the
was it.
most part, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was no discussions about Sleepy Hollow or Arrow or Agent of Shield.
Supernatural wasn't there, so.
Supernatural wasn't there. Yeah, it was all comic people, and I think that's one of the reasons why they like it. That and a lot of the freelancers are East Coast bound anyway, and Baltimore is not that far from New York,
Right.
D.C., Pennsylvania, wherever you're from. So it was good. It was very well attended by writers and artists. I mean, they had a ton of people. I mean, big people. They had Dave Gibbons, who did Watchmen, was there. Alan Davis was there. Gail Simone. Greg Capullo, who's the Batman artist, was there. George Perez was there.
Oh, wow.
He's Stan Lee was there a couple years ago. Jim Lee was
Uh-huh.
there a couple years ago. So they get the big. Jeff Johns was there a few years ago. They get the really really big guys to come in,
Hmm.
and then they get the regular guys. Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor are always there. Ron Mars is always there. Guys you see outside. Kevin McGuire was there with Joe, and then you have like Joe Rubenstein, inker, and
Hmm.
Fred Hembeck was there this year, which is really
Wow.
cool.
Cool.
The cartoonist who did some really good you know cartoony comic stuff in the 80s and 90s.
Hmm.
And they had Todd Klein, who was a classic in lettering. He had his own booth, which was really cool. He had people talking to him and stuff like that. And then you had new people like Amy Chu, who was there also, and lots of just lots and lots of people that you are Bill Willingham, just lots of people that you've heard of and you
Right.
know about. They come and they do these things. And I did want to touch on one other thing real quick. Tom Zoller, he does the My Little Pony books for IDW.
Hmm.
And he also had his own creator-owned book called Love and Capes, which was basically taking Superman and Lois Lane's relationship of superpowered human and a superpowered being and a human falling in love and starting a family, and turned it into like a romantic comedy
Uh-huh.
comic. And what's really cool about Tom is Tom was one of the guys that I got into previews. He was one of the
Uh-huh.
early. He was one of the people that I. His stuff was sent to us, and it wasn't just me personally. What we do to get people into previews is all the brand managers look through the stuff,
Uh-huh.
and we read it, and then we decide as a group. We vote: is this guy in, this guy out, and then we discuss why we want them in there. So we all decided that he would go in, and we do Love and Capes #1,
Hmm.
and I became his brand manager because the name of his company just happened to fall in my area because we split up alphabetically. So I was like F to M or something like that. So I had all the vendors that had those names that
Oh,
were in
okay.
there.
Mhm.
So I got to see him, and he's really done really well in IDW, especially with the My Little Pony stuff and his Love and Cape stuff. So I got to talk to him for a little bit. That was kind of cool to catch up with him. So it's a low-key con. It's not too huge. I mean, it was really big this year, but it's not like San Diego sized or probably even Heroes Con size. This was a smaller, more intimate type of thing, and a lot of different vendors. I mean, they had comic guys, but they also had, if you're a Golden Age comic collector, they had a lot of Golden Age ones, Silver Age ones, they had a lot of Silver Age ones. Then they had T-shirt booths, they had stuffed animal booths, they had toy booths, they had Lego booths, and they had art booths, and just
Everything.
it had everything under the sun, and it was great. It was great. I mean, as I said, I think the kids might have been a little too young because they'd never really seen it before, but Dawn made a good. I'm good.
No, it's also for children. They don't really have things to entertain them, do they? I mean, it's not set up to entertain. It's just really.
Yeah, I mean, the kids comic section is a beginning, but it's not something that's like consistent 24/7. That's okay.
Right.
From 1 to 2 is this thing. From 2:15 to 3:15 is this thing. From 3:30 to So and then it might not be something you like, and also because there are lots of kids, the area is really small, so it's packed with all the kids and stuff. So
Right.
it's not going to be a lot of fun if it's there. But you're absolutely right. But one of the cool things though is looking at all the cosplayers. I mean, there was a lot. I mean, and I gathered the weirdest things I saw was I saw two separate Marty McFlys. It was one from the 1985 Back to the Future, with the leather, vest, not leather, the jeans jacket and stuff like that, and then there was one from the 2015 Marty McFly with the red blow up jacket and the hoverboard, stuff like that. So we had those, and there were two separate guys. I was like, really? Back to the Future? And there was even a Doc Brown. I mean, the Doc Brown, the big white hair, stuff like that. There was a lot of Disney princesses. There was actually, believe it or not, there was a Mulan, which you hardly ever see anyone doing Mulan cosplay. She did that. Belle, as usual. Little Mermaid, as usual. Elsa and Anna were there, of course, from Frozen, and not a lot of them. But then I realized that the biggest cosplaying group is probably, there's two of them, is Star Wars and Batman. Because I saw tons of Batman. Well, not just Batman himself, but I saw tons of Batmans, Catwomans, Jokers, Riddlers, Poison Ivies, stuff like that. And I guess maybe a little bit of X-Men too. There were a lot of X-Men as well, but then there was just a lot of different Batmans, a lot of different Batman, Nightwings and Robins and Batgirls and stuff like that. And then there's a lot of Star Wars. There was, the Stormtroopers, the Jango Fett's, the Boba Fett's, the Princess Leia's in the slave bikini, Darth Vader's. There was a Darth Vader that was Darth Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi, where Luke's father's all bald and stuff like that, and
scarred up and everything.
Yeah, they had one of those. They had a dark helmet, which was awesome. But those, and the weird thing is, I didn't see a lot of Star Trek. I didn't see a lot of Star Trek this year. That was kind of interesting. I didn't see a lot of Star Trek. Usually, you'd think you'd see a lot of maybe Rikers or what do you call them, Klingons or anything, but there really wasn't a lot of those. And various comic book characters here and there. There was a Lobo whose hair was made out of yarn. It was kind of funny.
Was this the new emo Lobo or the old Lobo?
It's the old school Lobo.
The old Lobo. Okay.
He had the cigar in his mouth, not lit obviously because you can't have a lit cigar in there. But he had the yarn hair. It was so funny. It was awesome. And just and then. When we were leaving, this was kind of cool also, there was like 5 Blades. And they were all getting Blade actually is a very popular one because, it's pretty easy. You just get, if you're shaving a shaved head, you get some leather, stuff on, the sunglasses. Well, not shaved head because Wesley didn't have the shaved head, but some of them had the shaved head. Yeah, but and then you have the swords, and the stuff you can get anywhere. But they were, as we were leaving, there was like a group of 5 of them were getting their pictures taken, and then there was a group of like Batman cosplayers all together. It was like a Batman and a Robin and a Harley Quinn and a Joker and a Catwoman and a Poison Ivy. And I'll tell you what, I mean, there were a lot of hot chicks there too. There was one had a Catwoman outfit, the old school one with the zip down, the jacket, the leather jacket, the zip down, where you could see like almost everything. That was interesting.
Interesting.
And then you got the old school Miss Marvel, not the new one, but the old school Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel. So that's kind of a tight bodysuited type of thing also. And you notice that a lot. You notice a lot of the women like to go there and they like to dress up in the sexy costumes and they enjoy it. It makes them feel good. But there was a cool Bishop was there. There was a couple really cool robot ones. I mean, guys who were wearing like full-on robot regalia that lit up and stuff like that.
Wow.
And one last one, then we'll move on from this. And there was a guy who looked like Electro from Amazing Spider-Man, the Jamie Foxx version. He had the hoodie on, and the face was kind of blue, and he got the lights inside to make him light up like that. It was actually really impressive. I mean, some of these...
a lot of thought and effort into it.
They do, they really do. And Dawn said maybe that'll be one of the things that'll make the kids enjoy a little bit more, is maybe we'll plan on next year having the kids maybe dress up in costumes and walk around a little bit and see what we can do. And then Dawn and I can get dressed up in costumes. Right now we just wore art comic stuff. I had my Yellow Lantern shirt on. I had my Yellow Lantern ring. Dawn had her Zatanna T-shirt on. I just bought Noelle a Wonder Woman shirt, so she was wearing that, and Noah had his Captain America shirt. So yeah, maybe that could help out too. And that was what they really wanted to see. They were really astonished by all the people who were dressed up. I mean, and there was a Mario's, and there was Luigi's, and from the Mario Kart times, and Mecha Godzilla, and one of Mecha Godzilla's villains. It's just it's everything. There was the guys from Shaun of the Dead, you know, they were there too, you know, people dressed up like them, and just
that's fun.
Everything. I mean, it was everything under the sun you could think of, and you're sitting there thinking, that's interesting. These guys are real fans, because you don't really often see like a Marty McFly cosplayer, you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
But definitely recommend it. It was great. It was great fun. The Harvey Awards also were awarded last night. They are awarded at Baltimore Comic Con. The Harvey Awards are like the Golden Globes of the comic world, whereas the Eisners are like the Academy Awards. They're done at San Diego. But it's great though that Baltimore was picked to do the Harvey Awards, so that's kind of cool. They've been doing it for years. So some pretty interesting stuff. Saga won a bunch of stuff. Sex Criminals won a bunch of stuff. So there's some good stuff out there. So
it's good to see a lot of the independents getting recognized. Well, not independents, but not the main three, so to speak.
Exactly. And oh shoot, my beer just overflowed. Let me put that out here.
Slammed it down too hard.
Sorry, I know it's what you all want to see is me sucking down the beer. So anyway, I'll clean that up later. Well, it's 1 o'clock, so we have no viewers because football's on. So obviously everybody's watching football now, so that's okay.
That's right. They'll catch the rerun.
Exactly.
They'll catch the rerun.
And just real quick, for those who want to go to Baltimore Con, I highly recommend it. Next year, well, you can go now if you're nearby. Go now. They're open until about 6 o'clock today. But if you want to plan for it, next year they're actually going to be doing it later next year than usual. Usually, as I said, the first or second weekend of September. They're the last weekend of September
really?
this year. The main reason why is because, and I remember this, the Baltimore Convention Center has one of the hugest conventions they've ever held is going to take place that weekend that they usually have, and obviously it's already been booked, so they have to pick another date, and that seemed to be the best one for them. So it's September 25th through the 27th, and this is also the first year. Not only is it in the big convention center, but it's the first year that they have a third day at it. It used to just be Saturday and Sunday, but now it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I've had people who I follow on Twitter came down or came up in some cases for long weekends, and so they're having a good time. They should be heading back today, probably. But good show, and I highly recommend it. So I think I've talked enough about that. And it's probably also why we might have lost a lot of viewers too. Oh, who cares?
It's your show. And besides, hey, the comic conventions are good. Like I said, I went to my first one. I really enjoyed it. So looking forward to more. And it's always good to hear, get different perspectives on different ones too. So
yeah, it is. It's a good one. And it is in the heart of the Inner Harbor. So if you want to spend a little bit of time down there and then want to get out of there, just head on down the Harbor Place. Go see Oriole game, Ravens game, whatever. So it's got to be crazy down there because the Ravens are at home. So the fact that the convention center and Ravens Stadium are right there, it's got to be crowded as heck down there right now. So we'll see what happens. So okay, that was that, and so it's highly recommended. Let's see, what do we want to talk about next? Let's just go over the news real quick. Some cool stuff. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Once again, is number one. It has broken the Avengers record. It's its fourth straight week of being number one. Granted, it's during week time of the year, but you know what? Doesn't matter. It's still making money. It's still doing really well money-wise. And that was a weird thing also. I only saw one cosplayer for Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought I was going to see crazy tons of them. I saw one Rocket Raccoon, and that was it.
But if you think about it, I mean, they may not have had time to get together a costume for that because the movie hasn't been out, like I said, a month and a half, and some of these people put a lot of time into coordinating their costumes with their friends. Maybe they just couldn't, get it together this time. But it's as popular as it is. I'm sure that you'll be seeing them coming up, though. I
And
would think
probably,
so.
and also probably Halloween. We're probably seeing a lot of
Yes.
the Halloween costumes as well. But when we when we last talked, MJ, I hadn't seen it yet. I did see it. Dawn and I absolutely loved it. It was
Good.
fantastic. It was everything you said it would be, everything I thought it would be.
Uh-huh.
And I'm actually, now that I've seen it, I'm actually not that surprised that it did so well. And
Oh yeah.
the main reason why is mainly, I think, due to the fact that Peter Quill had that musical background. The way that he had his mixtape brought
Yes.
back, I think brought back lots of memories for people maybe our age. I mean, granted, it's more like 70s, late 70s type of music, so it might not be quite like our music, but it's close enough that
Right.
we know the stuff and we enjoy it. So I think that was one of the big reasons for it, was because music played such a big part
Yes.
in the film. I mean, they used the songs for scenes in the film, and they seemed to fit, perfectly, or added that little extra dimension of
Yeah. Right.
whimsy.
Whimsy, exactly.
And that's the other thing also. I think another reason why it did so well is because it's a fun movie.
Right.
So many movies out there nowadays take themselves so seriously and
They're heavy.
try to be dark or heavy and stuff like that. This was just pure fun. Yeah, they had its heavy moments. They balanced it really good. I mean, some of the hard parts, like when they're in jail and they're
Dealing
getting,
right.
getting changed into their clothes, and Peter sees the damage to Rocket's back, through the medical experiments, and then Rocket, when he's drunk, totally going off about how nobody, everybody treats him like a rodent because he looks like a rodent, and stuff like that, and he's not. He's an intelligent being,
And he didn't ask to have that done to him and be made like that. And yeah, that was rough. A lot of that was rough, and just like the interaction between the characters was perfect. Drax killed me. I mean, I think that was like the perfect characterization there. Just the little things that he would say and just the interactions. I love the whole movie.
Yeah, and that's another thing is I was so, maybe I shouldn't be, but amazed by Chris Bautista. I mean, who knew that a wrestler could emote as much as he did?
I had no idea.
Yeah, Drax is a very complicated character, has a very interesting background, and Chris killed it. He absolutely killed it. He did a fantastic job as Drax, and he was another part that was kind of deep and sad. And also at the beginning when Peter's mother dies and he gets abducted, that was sad also. It's just. But then you had the fun and the whimsy and just the
Groot and Rocket.
Exactly. And then that's the other part about being sad. Groot sacrificing himself,
Yes,
all kinds of stuff.
Them. Right.
But just in general, I mean, just the jokes about Footloose and the music and the way that they stop, the way that they that Chris Pratt, or rather I should say Star-Lord, Peter Quill, was getting Ronan's attention by dancing at the end, doing a dance off so they could get. I would almost say it's an almost perfect movie. I still think Avengers is still my favorite. But Guardians is, I think, by far my second favorite Marvel movie right now, and it is well deserved, and I cannot wait to see. Granted, we have to wait 3 years or so to see what the sequel's going to bring, but it should be good. And they've already started throwing stuff out there. We're going to learn about Peter Quill's dad, and they're going to introduce some female characters, more female characters, and it should be interesting. But I'm excited about that. So Guardians of the Galaxy, thumbs up, definitely. Dawn loved it. She absolutely adored it. She adored the film also, which was great too. And it was a great time. My kids were staying at my mom's house overnight, so we had a nice little date night. So we had the movie, we went to a nice dinner. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It's not for children, but it's
Yeah. And that was the thing we determined also because the kids were like, "Well, can we see it with you?" And I'm like, "Well, we'll go see it first, and then we'll decide." Because apparently some of my daughter's friends who are 7 and 8 years old, they've actually went and saw it. I was like, "Really?"
Oh, okay.
And no, but then Dawn and I, after we saw it, we're sitting at dinner, and we're like,
Uh-huh.
No, no, we're not going to kids. Not yet. No, it is not for kids. It really isn't. Not yet, anyway. Maybe a few years down the line, but no, 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 no. Not going to show you it yet.
Yeah, but see, that goes to show. I think a lot of parents let their kids because they're like, "Oh yeah, it's got a talking raccoon and it's got a talking plant. It's cute. It's funny." I don't think they realize what it's really about, and so for all
Yeah.
we know, they didn't even go in there with them to see it. If they did, I would have been like, "Oh, we're leaving now. You go. We're going to go see
Yeah.
Frozen on DVD right now."
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. But speaking of Marvel movies, Tuesday we talked about this on our show. And
Yes.
it's another really good one, probably my third favorite Marvel movie now. Captain America: Winter Soldier comes out on DVD.
Finally.
Finally, I know. So and bonus, Agents of Shield season 1 comes out also. So
Oh,
if
really?
you haven't got caught up on Agents of Shield, go ahead and buy the first season. I think I'm going to buy both because I still have a gift card for my birthday, which I haven't used yet, which is 3 months ago. But I still have some money on that. I think on Tuesday I'm going to go and spend it on Agents of Shield season
Yeah.
1. And Captain
I saw the first few episodes, missed the middle, then saw the end. So, I'm all right. Well,
Well, yeah, I still, it had a little bit of rough patch at the beginning, but I think they found their footing, and some of the stuff that they've got coming up, that they've been teasing over the second season, I think we're going to see something really, really cool. And they also have the task of setting up Avengers 2 also, how they're going to do that. So, and you know what? That's the reason why. People might say, oh, they're selling out, they're doing it connected to the movie. Well, why do you think ABC is allowing a second season?
Right.
Great. The ratings weren't fantastic. I mean, they weren't bad, but they weren't fantastic. But you know what? It's free advertising
Exactly.
for their movies that they have a stake in, and it also will draw and the second that end of the season when they tied in directly with the Winter Soldier, that's when the ratings started to go back up again and started getting more of the critical acclaim back and stuff like that. They started getting their mojo back. So you need to connect it to the movies, and you've got the same creative people behind it. The Joss Whedon's crew is doing the TV show also. So you know what?
That'll work.
Joss can say, okay, this is what's going to happen in Age of Ultron. This is what you need to do to lead to that point.
Right.
And so they were able to write the series up to that to add, not entirely have the whole series be a lead up to Avengers 2, but there's going to be episodes that are going to tie in some way or another. They're bringing in some new characters, which I think is one of the strengths of Arrow and the Flash. The Flash. All the news has become about the Flash is because it seems like every week there's a new update about the Flash because they're filming, they're filming right now. It's like, oh, guess who's going to be in? Heatwave from the comics is going to be in, or Killer Frost is going to be in, or today they announced this guy named Blackout, who is a character from Flashpoint, who was only in the book for maybe an issue, and even then it was like a background character. He's going to be in it also. And they're going to have a crossover with Arrow, which makes absolute perfect sense because he was introduced in Arrow. Yeah, exactly. So it makes sense to have them interacting in their own world, and the two of them seem to play off of each other really well, and that way you can also create your own little Justice League also, because the Flash and Green Arrow are members of the Justice League, and if you're not going to really connect it to the movies, which is fine, you don't need to, you can create your own little...
give them their own world.
Exactly. And you know what? You know what would be perfect? I would absolutely love this because he's one of my favorite characters. You introduce Martian Manhunter.
Yes.
I don't know if they're going to do that in the movies. I haven't heard anything, especially after whatever his name was who's writing it said, oh, he's such a, nobody knows him, only nerds know him.
No. He was on Smallville, and he was a very popular character on Smallville.
And he's such a great character. He is a character that could hold his own movie franchise because, and I get all my stuff from Martian Manhunter from the John Ostrander, Tom Mandrake run, where John Ostrander came with the ideas like, you know what, he's a Martian, he's an alien from our planet, and instead of being like Superman where he becomes a superhero and goes around and is flashy in his red and blue costume and saves the world, stuff like that, Martian Manhunter is more of a background character. What he does, he wants to discover what makes humanity tick, what makes these humans tick. So what he does
wants to fit in.
So he has the power to fly, he has the power to be invisible, and he has the power to change his appearance.
Right.
So in John Ostrander's run, he had created various people all across the world. He had like a Vietnamese little girl. He was a Vietnamese little girl. He was an Australian thug guy. He was like a South American farmer or something like that. And he created this life for him just to interact with people. It's not to, oh, I'm going to stay here because I know there's going to be drug lords coming, so like that. No, he's going to see, okay, why do the humans farm? I know it's to eat, but what goes into it, and why is there such a big deal about that? And he interacts with the people. He sees, okay, these people are being repressed. Why are they being repressed? I need to see why people are being repressed, why people are being hurt. We're all one human group. And I think you can make a series of movies on that. You can have him be a different character, and then if you want to add the Big Bang Boom, yeah, sure, you can have him be, okay, I'm this character, and then, okay, he happens to stumble upon something in Australia, where he plays some guy and he has to go and save the day. You can still have the Biff Bam Boom and stuff like that. You really can, and he's such a great character, and I think he would be really good, well suited for the TV series. You said he was in Smallville. I think he'd be really well suited for the series. And who knows? You know what? Tom Welling, is that who it was?
Yes, Tom Welling.
He's Superman now. He's Superman now. Get him in there if you want to have your own little Justice League TV. You bring him into the Arrow and Flash world, and there you go. You've already got your Superman. You got Tom Welling right there, and then bring him.
What a ratings boom that would be if they were to say, "Hey, Tom Welling is going to do a guest appearance, reprising his role as Superman." He's a few years older now. He's really Superman. That would just take off right there.
Absolutely. Get on that, WB. And I just the more and more I hear about the Flash, the more and more I'm really excited for it. And this is going to be one of the ones that, unfortunately, as I said with Arrow, I didn't catch on at the right time for whatever reason. So I'm kind of pissed about that. Eventually, I'm going to get back and I'm going to get caught up on Arrow. But I'm definitely going to start with Season 1, Episode 1 of The Flash. I'm going to watch that all the way through. And I'm also... Yeah, October 7th. Yeah, it's fantastic. I know we've been talking about this the last few times, but I'm starting to get a little bit more intrigued about Gotham. I've been seeing a little bit more about Gotham, and it's looking to be a little more interesting. As I said, we'll give it a run, and we still have our issues with it, but it seems like they've got a good grasp of what they want to do, and I kind of like seeing, especially seeing the guy who plays Oswald Cobblepot, and his role is pretty good, and seeing what's her name? And she's from my area too. The one who's married to Will Smith. Who's married to Jada Pinkett. Playing the mobster. Yeah, playing the mobster, and then the Catwoman and stuff like that. I'm interested to see that.
Well, I think that probably they were hearing through social media at the beginning the rumblings about it and the lack of excitement towards it. So hopefully they didn't necessarily go back and repackage or rebrand it, but maybe they're saying, okay, you know what, we need to portray it a little better, and then get some positive buzz going, because it really did not have any positive thing going for it. At least not out there like the Twitterverse. Nobody was that excited about it. So they had to do something.
Yeah, they did. And also Constantine. I've been hearing more and more that they're going to be introducing a lot more of the supernatural characters. Yes. And I absolutely adore the supernatural characters. So I'm excited for that as well. So I'm getting really excited about this upcoming TV season. So did I talk about that? Yeah. So, and then the fact is also that the news just broke today that they're going to be introducing a African American Wally West, like they did in the comics, which I think is brilliant. Actually, I actually love. If you haven't seen my show, The Comic Hall, I haven't done one in a couple weeks. So I haven't had comics, but I absolutely love Robert Venditti and Ben Jensen's Flash. Once they've taken over with Brett Booth, it's been an incredible series, and they introduced Wally West as a young African American kid. And he's still connected to Iris. Iris's brother married a African American woman, and they had a kid. So it makes perfect sense. And they're going to be introducing Wally West into the Flash TV universe, and he's going to be African American, which is sort of mirroring what's happening in the comics, because the DC is in the middle of their 5 years later, a month of September, which we'll get into in the next half hour. And they've shown some previews of the Flash issue, Future's End Flash #1, and it's Wally is now the Flash, and he's the African American Wally from the comics. So it's kind of mirror imaging what it is. So I think that's going to be interesting to see as well. The fact that they're bringing in Wally West as well. And on top of that, the other thing I also absolutely love about the Flash is they brought John Wesley Shipp in who was the
The
original
original
Flash,
Flash.
and got him to play a big role. I mean, I think he's playing the dad. I think Barry Allen's dad, who's incarcerated. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, because I do remember watching when the Flash first came on. I was like, oh, this is amazing, Of course, it didn't last, but
I
he
know it
still was
was.
the original. It was fun. It was a fun show. I liked it.
I did too. It was great, and they were doing a really good job of starting to introduce the rogues. They had
Right. Yeah.
Mark Hamill's Trickster. They got the guy who played Captain Cold, and then they had Mirror Master at the end. It was like, this would have been cool if you would introduce Captain Boomerang, Rainbow Raider, all these other guys. It would be fantastic, and that's what they're going to be doing in the Flash TV. You have to do the rogues. I'm sorry, it's his Joker. It's his Joker. The rogues are. It's not just one person though. It's a group of people, and Captain Cold is the leader. And in the comics, they can bring Captain Cold's character from the comics into the TV series, because Captain Cold, yes, he's a villain, yes, he's a bad guy, but he follows a code of honor. And he's a bad guy. Yes, he breaks the law and stuff like that. But I think he never goes after children or women or something like that.
He has his method, right.
He doesn't kill children or women. I mean, he kills men because they piss him off, but he doesn't go. And then the one thing I always remember is, I don't remember who it was or someone, but someone in the Flash universe died close to the Flash. And the Rogues decided to send flowers to like Barry Allen or Wally, whoever was the Flash at the time, with a condolence card, and say we're gonna have a ceasefire. We're not gonna do anything for 48 hours a week or whatever, so you can mourn and do this stuff. And Captain Cole is the type of guy that if you're not on board with him, like if say Mirror Match says, screw this, I'm gonna go. I want to go rob somebody. I want to go hurt somebody. Captain Cole's gonna go, not so fast. Boom! You're frozen. You ain't going anywhere. I'm gonna beat the crap out of you. I'm gonna freeze your ass, and you're gonna stay right there till I tell you you're gonna go do something. And that's what's really cool. Also, is that they're bringing his character into the Justice League now. And I kind of like that idea, because during the whole evil crossover they did earlier in the summer, it was basically Forever Evil, it was Lex Luthor and Captain Cold who were the ones who actually, along with Sinestro and Black Adam and all that, who came in and helped save the day. The villains saved the day and saved the heroes. So Jeff Johns has decided that he wants to throw a curveball into the Justice League. So he's putting Lex Luthor and Captain Cold into the Justice League. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. I think that's a fantastic idea. Adds a little bit of a nice breath of fresh air to it. And it's been so good that I've actually started collecting again. I sort of lost interest in Justice League after the whole Force of Evil, whatever it was called. I keep forgetting what it's called. Forever Evil.
Which seemed like it lasted forever. I'm like, how much longer is this going to last? Because I could not stand that time frame. I'll be honest with you. I was not the least bit interested in Forever Evil, and it went on and on and on. I was like, oh.
But the fact is that it seems like he's writing the ship now, and hopefully he's got some interesting story ideas coming up. So we got that. Let's see. They introduced the first view. It's the artistic view of it, but the first view of what the Vision's going to look like in Avengers 2.
Right.
And he's going to look like our Vision. He's green, red face. Everything. I think that's awesome. I think that's great.
It's iconic. I mean, that's what you think of in every, like the comics, the cartoons, every iteration. He has pretty much looked like that. So why would you change that now? So.
Exactly. So kudos to you, Joss Whedon. That's fantastic. Yep. AMC has put in a pilot order for the companion zombie series, The Walking Dead. Walking Dead is a comic. For those who might not know, Walking Dead did start off as a comic, still is running as a comic now. Yep. But because of the popularity of it on the show, Robert Kirkman has decided he's going to create a companion piece to it with brand new characters that does not have a connection to the comic. I mean, maybe besides maybe a character or whatever might make his way in there, but it's going to be completely new characters, completely new scenario, and I believe they say a completely different take on the zombie apocalypse, which I don't know. It's hard to say, because Walking Dead, I mean, that's basically what all zombie shows are about, is surviving in the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, I don't know if I would change that. And, the thing is that the way that it's set up, they could easily just do another city. It's not just Atlanta that people are surviving in and the surrounding area. Just move out to San Diego or move to who knows where, and new characters, new situations, but you still want to keep the basics of survival. I mean, that's kind of what pulls you in. So.
Yeah, well, that makes So we'll see. I mean, but that means they've just ordered the pilot. Doesn't mean they're going to go to series, but they're going to get an episode made. They'll take a look at it and they'll say, okay, this is pretty good. Let's put it to series. And you know what? It's going to series. I'm sorry, unless it's god awful terrible, it's going to series, and it's going to be by the same people who did Walking Dead. So I have no doubt we're going to see, probably a 2-hour zombie block. Probably we'll have a Walking Dead and his companion piece going 9-10 o'clock probably, which will probably cut down on maybe the showing the episode again immediately after. So that's how they do it now. They show it and then. Or do they do Hardwick? They do Hardwick next, right?
Talking Dead.
Yeah, and then they do the episode again. Right. Maybe they can move Hardwick back and do the 2-part. Or they could say, okay, when Walking Dead's on hiatus, we'll bring in the companions so that you're not missing out on the zombie thing. That's another way they could do it also. That way you get 24-hour zombie, type of thing.
Yeah. So, 2 seasons, so to speak. So yeah.
So that might be. So either way, I think it would work, and I think people are interested. I mean. We've got Z Nation coming up on Friday on Sci-Fi, so our zombies get a little overplayed, maybe a little bit, but we just need to have a different take on it.
Yeah.
And hopefully
I'll watch it.
Well. Yeah, I'll watch it too. It's got a pretty interesting cast, and Craig Engler, who was the guy who was on Sci-Fi for the longest time, he's involved with it. So, you got some good characters. You got DJ Qualls, Harold Perrineau, and I think Tom Everett Scott's in there too. So that's pretty good too. Only a couple more. The other big news, comic movie news, is The Rock has been cast as Black Adam in the Shazam movie.
Perfect casting.
It is perfect casting. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think he's fantastic. The only other character, and we'll talk about this sometime down the line because I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, but this isn't the time now. And I've told this before. If I ever had the money or whatever, I had clout in Hollywood, whatever, I would make an Adam Strange series of movies. I have ideas for a 7-movie series, and I always have pictured The Rock as playing Carter Hall, Hawkman.
Yes.
Because remember, he's got kind of that Egyptian. He's an Egyptian archaeologist background, and he's a badass, warrior type of guy. Yeah, exactly. So I think he would have been an absolute great Hawkman, and I would, and thinking about casting like that, I would have cast him as Hawkman. So they still might be able to if they decide to do a Hawkman type of movie, whatever. But I think Black Adam, he's going to do a fantastic job. Yeah. Black Adam is one of those characters who is a shade of gray character. He's not pure evil, but he's not pure good either. Right. So and another thing that they were saying is that the Shazam movie is going to. They've got a writer involved, and they got The Rock now involved, and the writer's we're going to try for a more lighter edge, because you need to do that with Shazam, because let's look at who Shazam is. For those of you who don't know, Shazam / Captain Marvel is basically a 13-year-old boy in the body of Superman, for the most part. He's got the same powers, not the same powers, but he's powerful as Superman.
Close,
in fact, I think he's stronger than Superman because he's got magic behind him, and Superman is weakened by magic. So Captain Marvel is one of those only guys that could probably defeat Superman pretty good. But he's got that mind of a child. He keeps that mind of a child when he's in the body of Captain Marvel. It's almost like Tom Hanks in Big.
Yes, exactly.
So he's got the 13-year-old mind in the body of a big, strong man, and he's got the golly gee willikers, type of thing. And if they do that, maybe they can get away from the darkness that seems to be permeating DC movies, and make it like a light Guardians of the Galaxy type of thing. Because yes, Guardians, as we said before, Guardians of the Galaxy is light, but it has its dark moments. And the story of Shazam is the same. It has light moments, but there are some dark moments, especially when it concerns Black Adam.
Exactly.
The reason why he's the way he is because of oppression of his people and stuff like that. So. I agree with you. I like the casting. I think it's a good step in the right direction, and hopefully they'll make a pretty good Shazam / Captain Marvel, whatever, movie. And granted, it's not going to be out for a few years either, but still, the fact that they're starting to think outside the box a little bit, and besides Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, you're doing someone different. So
they need to start creating their own galaxy, so to speak, so their own universe.
Yes. And just the one last couple notes about casting stuff. Chris Evans, who plays Captain America. A lot of people might not remember, he also played the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four movies. He just said recently that he thinks that Michael B. Jordan, who is playing the Human Torch in next year's Fantastic Four, is going to do a phenomenal job. So, I mean, to be honest, what is he going to say? No, he's going to suck ass.
Yes. I should have come back for that. Not going to happen. No, he's going to say that. And you know what? He probably will do a great job.
Yeah, so, I think so, too. I'm not one of those people that says, okay, you know, they're making Johnny Storm black. Big freaking deal. You know?
I'm just looking. I like it as like I'm not the biggest Fantastic Four fan. You know, the first two movies I was like, I was more excited about the Silver Surfer than anything else. So, you know, I have to wait and see what I think about this. You know, I'm not going to be that excited for it, but you know, it's a Fantastic Four. You know, they're neat. They're a necessary part of something. So.
You know, once we get to see some more of the trailers and some of the more stuff coming out of it, I'll make my determination then if I'm going to go to see it in the movie theater or if I'm just going to go see it, you know, on DVD, which I think is probably what's going to happen.
Me too.
But you know, we'll see. I mean, Avengers 2, I'm definitely going to see in the theater. That's no doubt about that. But
it's like an opening day thing from me. Like I'll be standing there knocking on the door. Come on.
Yeah, I may have to take the day off actually. So yeah. And on that same note, also, Robert Downey Jr. Says he loves Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin look in the Daredevil TV series. So, take that as you will. I mean, you know, should be interesting.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that's next spring, I think, right?
Yeah, next spring.
Should be, yeah.
Good.
I mean, we might have to get Netflix for that. I mean, Dawn says that we have it, but I've never seen it before. I've never gone online or whatever and seen it. But we may need to get Netflix just to get into the old
Daredevil. Yeah.
Daredevil Defender stuff. So.
Yep, that will be good.
So right before we start getting into the New 52 stuff, just a few other kind of notes. As I said earlier in the show, the fall is here, so we're going to be looking forward to a lot of cool stuff coming up in the fall. Some great movies, some great TV series coming back, and that it applies to comics also, and some cool movie, you know, some cool books also. This is a little bit off topic, but I just read yesterday, I think, that they are doing a book about Phil Hartman, and it's going to be following following his life to his violent death and just hitting all aspects of his career, basically like a biography of him.
Okay.
But it's going to be more told in more of a first person, not first person narrative, but as a way, you know, they're going to talk to the people who worked with him and who knew him, and they're going to talk about his career, stuff like that. And like an oral history almost of Phil Hartman. And I love those type of books. One of my favorite books I've ever read is The Oral History of Saturday Night Live, where the guy who wrote the book just went to everybody who was on Saturday Night Live, the actors, the writers, and the guys who created it, and the band members and everything like that, and just had them talk about their time on the set, anecdotes they had, and stuff like that. And you learned a lot of really cool behind-the-scenes stuff and like that. So this sounds really cool. I've always liked Phil Hartman. He's always been a great actor to me, and it's a shame his life got cut short as it did. But and also the title's great. It's like You May Remember Me From, which is what he used as Troy McClure in The Simpsons. So I think that's a great title. So that's a totally completely off subject thing, but it's just something I threw out there. That in the fall they've got that. They also have got Neil Patrick Harris's Choose Your Own Adventure autobiography. I don't know if you heard about this.
No, I did not.
He wrote his autobiography as a Choose Your Own Adventure book.
See, that would be fun.
So I'm dying to read that. I want to see how he does that. So it'd be like, you know, here I am. I'm on the set of Doogie Howser. So should I? Do you want to see what happened with Doogie Howser? Turn to page 27, or do you want to say screw Doogie Howser? I want to talk about How I Met Your Mother. So why don't I go there? So then you can go to page 500 then, and then you mark your way back. You know, it's just.
Or his character in the White Castle, the Harold and Kumar Adventures.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That could go all over the place.
Do you want to see him die? Do you want to see him come back to life again? Do you want to see him ride a unicorn? Okay.
That's funny. I wouldn't see that though. I'd read that.
So those two are the big books coming out in the fall. But there's only 4 that I could find right off the top of my head. There's probably more out there, and maybe as the fall progresses, we'll be seeing some more and more. But I was giddy with excitement when I discovered this yesterday. Also, it was one of the things that came out of Baltimore Comic Con. Gail Simone, who I love, is
Yes.
coming back to her baby. She's coming back to write The Secret Six, which is, if you have not read The Secret Six, have you read The Secret Six?
I have not. I know
Oh,
that I have not read it. So.
dude! Oh, they're gonna, because of, they're going to be redoing a new number one. So the series, they're going to have a brand new regular series. Yeah, they're gonna re-release all the trades. They're going to release new trades of the regular series that preceded it in the old DC universe. It is one of the best comics out there, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your butt. It is one of the best comics out there, and the premise is real simple. It's a group of mid-tier villains. No, they're not good guys, but they're not fully bad guys.
Okay.
They have adventures. They're told to do this by a mysterious person named Mockingbird, and they're told, to get this or to do this, whatever. And they have and they work together, but they have no leadership. It's like battles for leadership, and because they're evil, they hook up with each other. There's lesbians, there's nudity, there's violence, there's killing, there's snarkiness, and it is one of the best books out there. I mean, the main characters are Catman, who was a lower tier Batman villain who basically took Catwoman's her cat obsession and turned it into a male version, and he was a loser. He was basically a loser. So Gail Simone comes in, says, "Okay, I'm going to write this book with these lower tier characters. Who's a good character to start with? Here we go, Catman." And turned him into a badass. After he was released from jail, he went over to Africa, lived with the lions and the tigers, and started killing people who were killing the lions and tigers. And he gets brought back in, and he's got a vicious streak. He's a lot like Wolverine, but he doesn't have that good stuff. He doesn't give a rat's ass. He'll kill you if he needs to, to get what he needs to. Then there's Ragdoll, who is like your psychotic being who can contort and twist into all these different shapes, and he's the snarky one. He's the one that makes all the little bad comments and not real good comments and bad jokes and like in the middle of being tortured, he makes all these cracks about how this is hurting him, and why don't you flake my skin off while you're at it and stuff like that. He's insane. Deadshot's in there, who is great. Deadshot's fantastic. And then they had they had the lesbian female. I forget what her name was. Bane, for a while there. Bane came in also and was involved with them also, and it was great. Gail examined what a date with Bane would be like, because he went out because he's so innocent because he was raised in a jail.
Right.
So he doesn't really know much. He doesn't really know much about
no social etiquette.
Yeah, exactly. So he goes to a bar. They set him up on a date with a woman, and he goes to a bar, and some guy starts hitting on him. Oh, not him, on her. And he breaks his back and breaks his arm and stuff like that. And the woman's like, "Oh, that's so sweet that you did that for me." And stuff like that. It is freaking hilarious. But at the same time, Gail is the type of writer that all the humor in there, she can also string along these really dark, serious story arcs and stuff like that. And then there's always going to be a connection to Batman also. The sixth member of the group is always going to be a Batman villain. They've already got Bane and Catman in there, but and Deadshot for the most part is a Batman villain too. But Knockout, that's the female. That's the other female. Okay. She's in one of Granny Goodness's Apocalypse women. And she's a lesbian, so that's kind of cool. I mean, so she's a buxom, very attractive woman, but very strong. So she's very sexy, but she only goes for chicks, which is really. But it's interesting. It gives them a chance to take a look at some different characteristics and stuff like that. And then they also have a bisexual male who helps them with their computers and hacking and stuff like that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff. And he can't feel pain, so that's another one of those characters they can bring in and do stuff with.
When does this launch again?
The new Secret Six comes out in December. So, it's Gail's writing it, and Ken Lashley, who's actually a pretty good artist, is doing the artwork on it. He's one of those artists that he doesn't have a unique style, but it's one of the styles that you understand. Okay, this is this character, and this is this character, and he's got a good idea of motion and action and how to make calm moments of people talking interesting as well, good background, stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to it. And when the trades come out, you got to read them. They're phenomenal. So I was giddy with excitement when Gail. It's her baby. Secret Six is basically her baby. They came out of the in Infinite Crisis storyline that played back a while back. They came out of that series. And then they got their own series. So and it was pretty popular for a while, and then it got canceled right before the New 52 happened. So
I'm definitely going to pick that up then, because I do remember Ragdoll from the Batgirl series here just recently. You know, Ragdoll was in there, which I thought was just like a creepy, really good character. Now I'm like, oh, okay, makes sense.
And since Gail wrote that issue also, she's probably going to say, I'm going to take Ragdoll and he's going to throw him back into the series. So that's yeah, it is. And who knows? Maybe that that vampire character she created in Batgirl also might make his way in there too, because she likes to have a little bit of variety in there. Just she wants to keep it from being stale, so she'll have characters moving out, but. Catman and Deadshot are basically the mainstays, and also Ragdoll also are like the mainstays, and the others are sort of in flux. So we'll see what happens with that. So there's some good stuff there. From DC, not DC, I mean from Marvel, I'm actually really excited about this crossover, the Spider-Verse. I don't know if you've heard about this one.
I have.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. You know, they're going to have the crossover with every Spider-Man ever created and new ones being created all the time. They're all going to come in and take on more Loon, and I think I love Spider-Man, and a lot of the characters they're bringing in are ones we've seen before in other comics as well, like from the What-Ifs and stuff like that. And I'm actually really interested in that. So that might actually be one of the crossovers that I might actually get every issue of. I mean, they're going to have the crossovers between the Spider-Man books. They're probably going to have, I think they're having mini-series where they're going to focus on, like, 3 characters here and then another one that has 3 characters. So there's going to be like a whole bunch of mini-series and stuff like that. But it seems like it's going to be a good series and some good writers and some good crossovers. So I'm actually looking forward to Spider-Verse. They've already started planting seeds, and they just released Superior Spider-Man number 32 a couple weeks ago. That book's been canceled for a while, but they brought in this new issue to set up Spider-Verse. So you see a whole bunch of new Spider-Mans in there, and then the Spider-Man book proper, Amazing Spider-Man, has introduced some of the new characters, including like a female Spider-Man, a Spider-Woman type of character. And then Spider-Woman's going to get her own book, so I don't know if she's going to be involved with it. There's that whole controversy about the way she was portrayed on the cover.
Yes.
That's for a different thing. I think we'll talk about that on the 28th.
That would be like a really good one to do with the guests. So.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that probably on the 28th. But and I'll tell you what's going to happen on the 28th at the end of the show. So you just wait, okay? You'll find out. I've got 15 minutes to go. We got a lot to cover. So. And then the only other two big ones are actually both from Boom Studios, which my friend Philip is a part of, which I just saw ads for. I mean, I'd heard about them, but I really didn't know much about them. But Sleepy Hollow, the TV show, which is coming back in a few weeks also, they're doing a miniseries based on the TV show, written by Marguerite Bennett, who is a fantastic writer. She's down at Baltimore Con right now. She's written. She writes for DC. She does Joker's Daughter, and she did some fill-in issues for Batgirl when Gail needed a break or whatever. And she's done some Batman issues as well. So she's starting to make her way in the world. But she's doing a Sleepy Hollow miniseries, which is really cool, with artwork by the Jorge or George Colas, something like that. And then George Perez, who is a classic creator, guy's been around forever. He's also downtown at Baltimore Comic Con this weekend. He is going to release his first creator-owned book in a long time called Sirens from Boom Studios, and that's coming out in October, I think. So he's drawing and writing that, and it's like outer space women team, an outer space women space team type of thing.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to be male-oriented characters, and you know he draws good women, and it's George Perez. He's a fantastic artist. And I don't know, I haven't heard anything about this, but Grant Morrison supposedly has a book coming out from Boom also, but I don't know if it's coming out this year or if it's going to be held off till next year. So we'll see. But Grant's busy with Multiversity anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Is that his? I'd heard that he was on a horror comic. Is that it?
That might be it. They really haven't mentioned too much about it, and Boom's been keeping it to the vest. They might be waiting to discuss that a little bit down the line.
Right.
So we'll see. So that's the stuff coming, just some of the stuff coming in the fall. If we think of some other ones, we'll let you know down the line. And then the last 15 minutes of the show, we're going to devote to the new 52.
3-year anniversary.
Yep, 3-year anniversary. For those who don't know, 2011, actually it was August 31st was the first issue when Justice League came out, but September 2011, DC decided that they were going to revamp their entire universe for the most part, coming out of the Flashpoint storyline miniseries that was written by Jeff Johns. And the main reason why they wanted to do it was because Marvel was kicking their teeth in financially. They were winning market share all the time, so DC was losing market share. And plus, DC has been around longer than Marvel, so there's all this convoluted history and continuity and stuff like that. So Jeff Johns and Dan Didio and a few other guys said, you know what, why don't we just reboot the whole DC universe? So basically, they canceled every one of their series and then restarted them with number ones in September, with new creative teams, new histories and stuff, and like a whole new philosophy. And it worked for the most part. I mean, they became they had the top market share for a few months, and then gradually things started settling out and equaling out. Now they're still up there, but I think Marvel still has a slight lead on them, but they're still up there. So it seems to be working out pretty well. But old school guys like myself, some of the stuff was good, but a lot of it just seemed, extraneous and dumb to restart stuff, and they got rid of a lot of stuff. And I know I might sound like a hypocrite a little bit. I always say I'm not a continuity Nazi, but one of the big things was they just destroyed all continuity and started brand new stuff. And they said it in a 5-year period. They said when the first issues of these books came out, the heroes have been around for 5 years. So in that 5-year period, they were able to compress not all, but a lot of the big DC stories that we know of, like The Killing Joke and Blackest Night and all that, and compressed it into that 5-year period. Because all that already happened, but we didn't see it. We actually saw it already, but we didn't really see it in the new DC 52. And that just seemed a little off to me,
And it's confusing for people who have been following it. Maybe they did it because they're like, okay, we need new readership, we need new blood, we need to bring in people who can start at a number one. But at the same time, you're right, it was very confusing in some places. I'm like, okay, you completely erased everything that this character has been known for or has done in the past and started them over, but did they do that or did they not do that? Is it part of their, being now? It was very confusing, a lot of it. And it took me a while just to let go and be like, I'm just going to read it. Even though I know that makes no sense, I'm just going to go with it.
No, it makes perfect sense, and that's basically kind of what I did as well, because at that point, and I still bring it up because it still pisses me off a little bit, but we're now 3 years in, and it's like there's nothing, they're never going back, they're not going to go back to the old, it's done, this is the new DC universe, this is what they're going to stick with from now on. And, they've done some good stuff, there's some good stuff out there, but just to me, there just seemed like there was a lot of weird things that they did that just don't make sense. And then there's some interesting things, like a good example, I talked about Adam Strange earlier. He's one of my favorite characters, but he's been unseen in the new 52 until recently. Jeff Lemire put him in the new Justice League United, which is a really good book, by the way. There are good books out there, and Justice League United is one of them. They put him in there, but they gave him a whole new history. The basic premise behind Adam Strange is he's an archaeologist who gets zapped into an alien planet from a Zeta beam, and the people on the planet, they don't know how to fight. They're all scientists and brainiacs, so like that. They don't know how to fight, and they get attacked by all these creatures, stuff like that. So it's up to this archaeologist guy who's very smart and ends up with like a jetpack and a gun and is able to use his brains to, and the help of the science people to stop these bad guys. But he's been the one that's the only one to show the guts to stop the bad guys. And then, he, gets zapped back to Earth, and then he has to figure out when the next beam is going to hit, so he has to stay in the southern hemisphere and stuff like that. And it's a great idea. As I said, I have a fantastic 7-movie idea for it, and I think it would work really well. And I've always liked the character, and then he disappeared after the new 52. He wasn't in anything. And then and then Jeff Lemire reintroduced him. And one of the things is when he went on the planet in the old universe, he fell in love with like the daughter of the one who runs the people, whatever. And they had a family and kids and stuff like that. And in the new 52, his wife, his girlfriend, well, his fiance in the comic, is a co-worker of his. So they work together as archaeologists.
Right.
And as they discovered this alien cavern in Canada or something like that, and they discovered the Zeta beam technology, and then they get transported, both of them get transported to Rand. So she has no connection to the Ranian people. So she's an Earthling, she's a human as well. So there's that change as that. And then he also changed the thing that the beam has been destroyed for the most part, so he really can't go back to Rand now. But his fiance also has been affected by that, and the two of them, if they're in the same room, they can't be in the same room. It's going to cause some sort of problem. So one of them has to stay on Rand, and the other has to. It's one of these. So we'll see what Lemire's going to do with that, but it's still a good book, and it's still interesting, and we'll see what happens. But they get the character down pretty good, but it's not the same character that I felt for in the new universe. I mean, granted, I could like him. I mean, I do like what he's doing so far, but it's different, and it's taken me some time to get used to him. But so they did that, and then the other thing that drove me crazy, and I think we talked about this before also, is the whole Robin scenario.
Oh yeah.
if Batman has only been Batman for 5 years,
where
he has 4 Robins. And technically, and I was thinking about that today when I was writing my notes up, and then technically, you know what? He couldn't have been Batman when he got Talia pregnant with Damian.
Right.
Because Damian is his son, as it is portrayed in, who's older, who's like 11 years old, you know? So Batman's lived around for 5 years. If he got Talia pregnant early on, Damian would only be 5. And you can't say, well, they've genetically engineered him to look like a 10-year-old, but he's got the brain of a 5-year-old. No, he doesn't.
He's very smart.
He's very smart. He's a 10, 11-year-old. They've established that in the comics. So how did that happen? Did he do that on his travels as Bruce Wayne? Well, then okay, that's great. But how does Talia? Well, I guess Talia could figure out that he's Batman. But how does that whole thing fit into?
Why would she care about a billionaire playboy? She wouldn't want him.
Exactly. So there's less things there, and the other thing also, the stories are a lot darker.
They're a lot darker, yeah.
I'm always a big fan that I like dark stories. They're fine, but not all the time. I mean, you got to have some fun. You've got to have the characters. They're superheroes, for crying out loud. They're people with great powers and wonderful costumes, and they make snarky remarks, and they beat up really crazy bad guys, and it's fun, and you can have your dark stories, but now it just seems like everything is just all dark, dark, dark. Like Superman. Superman is supposed to be the epitome of truth, justice, the American way.
Right.
But in this new 52, his Earth parents both died. He's more cold, more alien than he has been. He's got more of a warrior armor suit on than a regular Superman suit, and he seems like he really doesn't like the humans that much, and he's no longer interested in Lois Lane. Now, to be fair, I will be fair, now that Jeff Johns is writing Superman, along with John Romita Jr. doing the artwork, Johns is starting to bring a little bit more of the old-style Superman back into the character. So you're starting to see maybe he's gone through his growing pains. The first 5 years, he was this kind of dickish, cold, alien type of guy. But the longer he's been around the humans, the better he's becoming. Becoming. And it's a great scene in the first issue that they did together, where Clark is Clark, and he's back at his home, and he's bored, and he's trying to find people to hang out with, and everybody he calls is busy. Like, he calls Bruce, Batman. He's busy doing his thing. Diana, his girlfriend, is busy doing her thing.
Right.
He calls Lois. Lois is doing her thing. So he has like no friends. So he's just sort of sitting at home, and it's kind of depressing. It's kind of sad to see him, Superman, and that's good because you're starting to show a little bit more of an emotional character and how he's supposed to be. So we'll see what Jeff's doing with that. But up to that point, he's always seemed to be like this cold, calculating alien type.
It was like it was almost like, okay, saving the humans is my job. I'm doing this because I'm supposed to do it, not because he felt like he was a part of the human race. You know, as a matter of fact, at the beginning of those, when they first relaunched it, he was very separate from it. He let everybody know. He's like, I am not one of them, you know, and he's just, you know, so he's very cold. The way he used his powers, he was very methodical with it. So, you know, it did have a weird feel to it, you know, and it could be that they're trying to create some of the continuity from the movie, the Man of Steel movie, where it was darker and some of the things that he had to do. But, you know, that's not the Superman that everybody who reads the comics knows. I mean, you know, Batman refers to him all the time as the Big Blue Boy Scout. But there was no Boy Scout in that Superman for a while. So, you know.
That's another good point, too. And also, it could be DC thought, okay, the world that we live in now is a dark and disturbing place with all the wars and diseases and stuff like that going on. We should reflect that in the comics. Well, no, you see, you can reflect in the comics. Yeah, sure, you can a little bit. But you know what? People read comics and go to the movies for an escape from the drudgery and from the painful stuff. They don't want to see, you know, stuff like that. They want to see the good guys beat the bad guys and, you know, do it in a good way so that they are not, you know, like they don't kill them or they only kill them if they're like vicious sons of bitches, like, you know, if they're child rapists or regular rapists or they slaughter people, whatever. Then okay, we want to see them die a bloody death. But, you know, if they just, like, rob a bank or something, you don't want to see them, okay, I'm going to throw you into a bank cell, tear the bank cell out, and throw you into the ocean. No, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
But, you know, it's just, and there's a lot more we can talk about it, but it just, the whole thing just seems just compressed. I mean, it just seems like they're trying to throw, I don't know, 60, 70 years of continuity into a 5-year period. And even then... Yeah, and they're cutting out a lot of stuff as well, and then they're bringing that back in, like, you know, why don't we do an updated version? Like, I have not a bad feeling, but I think what they're aiming for, because if those who've been reading the recent DC comics, especially Future's End and Batman Eternal, which are the 2 weekly books, and they're gonna have a 3rd weekly coming out in October, which is gonna be focusing on the Earth 2 stuff that's going on in Earth 2. And it's all leading to something that's going to happen in the spring because Didio said that all these books are going to end in the spring. And there's something, they're going to somehow combine and connect to something. And then there have been little flashes of what I'd like to say are probably the red skies. Now, if you haven't been a comic fan and don't know what we're talking about, in '86, when DC rebooted their universe again, or earlier, it was the first time they did it. And actually, in '86, I agree with what they did. I think they needed a little bit of a jump start, and they needed to do what they did. And I thought the way they did it and the continuity they set up was done much better than the New 52. But they created Crisis on Infinite Earths. Marv Wolfman wrote it. George Perez, who we talked about earlier, was the artist. And they destroyed the DC universe and reformed it into one cohesive storyline where the Justice Society heroes from the 1940s were not from another dimension or another Earth, but were fighting the Nazis in the 1940s, and their superheroes were in the 1940s. And then they disappeared when the Blacklist happened, and then superheroes started appearing again in the 60s, and that's where we are now. So, you know, that's how we get there. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant. But what the story was about was, you know, all these different Earths and these different infinite realities, stuff like that, were all destroyed by the Anti-Monitor.
Right.
And your universe was destroyed. The destruction of your universe was precluded, or was pretty much introduced by heralded. Yes, thank you, heralded by the red skies, which is like the force that was coming to destroy you.
Something bad was coming, right?
And I think at the end of, it might have been end of Forever Evil, actually. I think they showed the Anti-Monitor was back and like a red sky in the background. So I'm wondering, and then the Future's End stuff. I mean, the 5 years in the future, and which the weekly book is doing now, and then DC's doing this month. Everything seems to be coming to an end, and I'm wondering if that's going to lead to like a new crisis. Because let me think. 86. So no, there's no anniversary for of Crisis coming up for 2 years. It won't be till 2016 when it's the anniversary. So maybe they're just going to set up for a potential new Crisis to come in 2016. It's a possibility. It could be. So So what
Well,
I'm saying is,
they're kind of hinting at something like that's coming. I mean, if you read Batman, Batgirl, all of the ones that normally don't focus on the supernatural, the cosmic, something's happening, and they're even making reference like something's coming. And if you, like you said, you look at the panels. I mean, they're darker. The sky is red. A lot of times, it looks like something's always on fire. So maybe they are.
and and it could be good, but I mean, and then the whole thing with the whole multiversity thing, the 52 separate worlds. What's going to happen with
Right.
that? So we'll see. I mean, and just
I think it's getting too confusing. So I'm just like,
it is, and the other thing also is that they also they're so dead set on having 52 books out,
yeah.
and that's a little much to me. Granted, Marvel has more, and they have way more, and I don't even buy half of the Marvel books. There's some good ones, but I mean, there's a whole ton of them out there. It's like, really, why do we need all these books? But 52 is a lot. I mean, you spread it over 4 weeks. I mean, I guess that's I don't know, 13, 10 books a week, something like that. And it's a lot, and not everything, and they're expensive. They're between $3 and $4 now. I mean, and they're really expensive. I mean, yeah, it doesn't mean they're not good, but they are. But they've just, from the whole history of the 3 years that DC's been around with the New 52, I think they've canceled probably close to 52 books, probably, and have reintroduced 52 more. It just seems like if they're canceling new books all the time, and then they say, all right, well, all right, we're down to 48 books. We need to create another book. Come on, we need to do something.
4 more. Come on.
4 more books. Come on, let's I don't know. Let's do Sinestro. Let's give us Sinestro's own book, which is a good book. I didn't mean to disparage that.
That's kind of how
it's
they're
actually
doing
a really
it, right.
good book. Yeah, and I don't know what's going to happen with the Secret Six. And with Secret Six coming out in December, what book is going to be canceled to make room for that? Plus all these new Batman ones we talked about. The weird ones, the Wayne Manor becoming Arkham Asylum, and the one Gotham Academy, which is to get more female readers in. I understand why they're doing it, but then that's 2 more books that are going to get canceled that are out there now. And then you've got, and speaking of the Supernatural, I'm actually excited about this one. There's a Supernatural Batman book coming out in October. Forgot to add that to my coming this fall. It's written by Ray Fawkes, and it's drawn by Ben Templesmith, who was the artist in the original 30 Days of Night. And it's going to be about a crew in Gotham City Police Department who work the night shift, who handle, like an X-Files division. They handle the mysterious supernatural stuff that's going on in Gotham. So, and Batman will make appearances, obviously, yes. So I'm actually looking forward to that one. That one should be pretty interesting. But maybe they're going to spread that. So once again, it's another book that's coming out, but that means another book is going to get thrown in the garbage. And then you're introducing another weekly book. Well, then what's going to happen now? I mean,
I hope that they're not trying to say, okay, we need more weeklies, because I don't know anybody that's going to really, really keep up with them on a weekly basis, and that's expensive too if you think about it. You get hooked on something that comes out every week. $12
you're
going to drop. Yeah.
$12 right there on 4 books, and people are trying to budget. Like I try to spend between $40 and $60 a week on my comics. I tend to spend upwards of the more 60, which is bad. I'm trying to cut it down, but dropping it down to the 40 is about a good area. So there's a whole lot more we can talk about this, but we're getting close to the end of the time. So this is a topic that we can keep talking about more and more because it's something that's going to be there for a while. And then there's that, and then the other thing that drives me crazy is Marvel's #1s, and they're restarting books. They have a book that goes 18 issues. They're going to cancel it and have another new #1 come out. It's like, come on. I mean, that's
just
ridiculous.
getting going.
Yeah. It's like nobody wants to see another issue 153 or a 217 or or even 1,000. Like Action Comics and Detective were getting close to the 1,000th issue, and that's kind of cool. I mean, the only comics I know that are in the thousands, they're British. 2000 AD, which is a weekly comic magazine, is in the 1200s now, something like that, and that's kind of cool to see. It's like, okay, issue 1027 is out now, It's just kind of cool. So
we made it to 18. Let's start it over. 1. So, that's impressive too.
Yeah. So who knows? But we'll see. There's lots of stuff to talk about in the comics world, and we'll get to more stuff like that. So what's upcoming? We talked about the 28th of September. One of the guests I've been trying to get on for the longest time is the Moms Read Comics, Jessica. She is one of the 3 awesome ladies who do the Comicosity Hangout, which is a great Google Hangout on Mondays at 9 o'clock. It's 3 women who know their shit about comics. I mean, they know more shit than I do about comics, and they get the guests. I mean, and I know you said before we're starting low. They started low one time, but they get all the really good guests and stuff like that, which is cool. And she's finally consented to come on the show. And I was going to try to get her on to this week's show because she's a comic lady, but because of circumstances, whatever, she's not going to be able to do the show until the 28th, which is my Dylan Knows International show. Now, for those who might know, who've been watching Dylan Knows International, my co-host Bronwyn is also a huge comic person, and she's dating a guy named Steve, who's a big comic guy. And MJ is a big comic guy, obviously. So I said, you know what? We're going to get Jessica on the show. The 28th is Dylan Knows International. Bronwyn. Steve's going to be in town with Bronwyn. Let's get MJ on. Let's do a Dylan Knows International comic show. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So on September 28th, in about 3 weeks, if you're interested in comics, we're going to have, as far as I know right now, Moms Read Comics, Jessica, is going to be a guest on our show with MJ. Hopefully Steve, he's going to be with Bronwyn that weekend in Canada, but I sent him a text saying, hey, or a tweet, hey, you want to be on the show, and he hasn't responded yet. So I think he'll want to be, so because he said he'd want to do the show sometime. So cool. it won't necessarily just be comics, and we'll talk definitely a lot about comics, but we might talk about some other cool stuff as well. So come back for that. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. The grandfather of my show is Snark Alk Radio. They're going to be on Thursday, 9 o'clock. My wife, Dawn, is going to be on the show Thursday, 9 o'clock, so you're just going to want to check that. She's going to do her Defiance recap. The season's over for Defiance. They're going to talk about that. They're going to talk about Waterworld, which we all shared the misery of last night, including MJ. We shared the misery with that last night, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then, we'll do that. And then next Saturday, not Sunday, there's going to be no Dylan Knows on next Sunday, unless I come up with a different one, which I still might. But my usual list show with Gigi Fletcher is going to be on Saturday, 4 p.m., because Gigi can't do Sunday, 12:30, due to other responsibilities she needs to handle. We're going to do top 10 Pixar films. So that's going to be That's going to be a fun discussion. And then the weekend after that is going to be my paranormal show with Daphne Dew. I don't know what we're going to do that show yet. I'm going to try to get that going on. I'm still working. This is I'm calling this month is my I'm calling my year of knowledge, because next week is actually going to be my 1-year anniversary of doing the show. Yay! However, as you can see, I'm only on episode 50. Well, that's because I had a couple issues early in the summer where 2 episodes I wasn't able to do. So actually, I would have been at my last my episode 52 would have been this week, and then the beginning of the second year would be my actual 1-year anniversary. But we'll get into that. So I'm trying to get a lot more episodes out there this month and try to get a lot of special guests in there. So I got Jessica, which is great. Right. So she's on there. I'm trying to get Gerald Webb to come on. He's one of the actors who does the sci-fi movies. He's also a great casting agent. He casted the Sharknado movies as well as the Asylum movies. So I want to get him on the show, talk to him in one of the shows.
That'd be fun.
And I'm trying to get Dustin Perry, who is a ghost hunter, used to be on the Ghost Hunters TV show, then was on Ghost Hunters International, and then has not quit, but has stepped away from that for a while. But now he's coming back on this season of Ghost Hunters to help with the change in things that are going on. The Ghost Hunters lost a bunch of cast members, and they're going to try to get new ones on there, but they still need to do episodes. So Dustin stepped in and said, hey, I'll do a couple with you guys. So he's been doing that, but I'm trying to get him back on, but it's been a tough go trying to get in contact with him. I have talked with him. I've had preliminary talks with him, so hopefully I'll be able to get that, and maybe that'll be the show with Daphne Dew in a couple weeks, so we'll see if I can get that going. But just keep an eye on my feed, my @Holidil Twitter, and you'll see all kinds of stuff. And I may also create my own Dylan Knows Twitter page also. I'm still thinking about that, but we'll see about that. Yeah. So, get out there. So I think that's it. Thank you, MJ, for hanging out again. Comic show is always a lot of fun. Hopefully my football team's doing well. I don't know what score is yet.
Well, more for you.
I'm having a great conversation, so it's a lot of fun. And on that note, I'm going to say farewell. Hopefully, there'll be a new episode of the Comic Hall coming up this week, so I'll be able to talk more comics, show off some of the comics I've gotten the last couple weeks, and plug some new stuff that's coming up. Plus, check out my fictional show, The Assistant. I've got 2 new episodes coming out on Monday, so enjoy that. So for that, enjoy your first weekend of
football
and meteorological fall. So enjoy yourselves, and we'll be back here. You'll see MJ and I back on the 28th of September, and then we'll be back again that first weekend of October. I think October 5th will be our next show after that.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So that's cool.
All right, sounds good.
On that note, farewell and take care. Have a great week.
See ya.
Bye.